So finally I managed to test a new Ducati 450. There's my 2025 machine. Unfortunately I missed the bike launch in Italy, but I'm here now at Golden Barn Raceway in England on the Ducati MX experience, and lucky enough to ride the bike and to ride an old track that I used to ride many years ago. So surface is a little bit different to what people are used to these days. You know, it's blue groove, it's hard bike, but the bike, you know, it's handling that. I personally myself, I believe that this surface is quite good to test this bike on, because it will highlight a few weaknesses, if there is any, and to be honest, there really isn't. It's just a little bit different, this 450, compared to other 450s, which I'll touch on and more on in a little bit. We was told in the press launch that this is the first globally, so it's these bikes. I think there's 12 450s here. It's the first of its kind on the planet. So, and it's come to the UK, so that's something to be proud of. So we need to get that in, really. Going back to the bike impressions, or should I say rider impressions, I've heard a lot of people talk about the bike, say about the triangle and how it handles and how it rides, and I have to agree. When you jump onto the bike, it's very comfortable. It's got a very good natural, should I say, stance. You know, you don't feel like it's a European bike. It's very close more to a Japanese bike, which I don't like saying anymore now, because it's a little bit old and boring really to be saying things like that, but it genuinely is the case. One of the things that which I'll just go back to is first impressions of the bike. You can clearly see when you walk up and you look at the bike how good the bike is. The build quality is second to none. You know, just cable routers, just, you know, the even the frame guards, you know, integrated into the frame. You know, it really is a work of art. And when you look at a bike and you see the attention to detail that this bike has got, it's not surprising that when you ride it out on track that it's a good bike to ride. You know, and it is a good bike. And what I would like to touch on personally, because I feel like maybe some people haven't really got the insight that I have, because I've been doing it for a long time now. You know, if Tony Cairoli's put his touches onto this bike, it is clear that he has. And the reason why I mention that is because I've rode Tony Cairoli's factory bike since 2008. And every time when I jump onto his bikes, whether that be from the Yamaha days on the 250F, all the way through for the 350, 450, he has a certain way of developing the bike to how it rides on track, and this bike feels like that. I've always jumped on his bikes in the past and really rated them and liked them, and this is no different. The power in itself is a little bit different to a normal 450. The gear ratio is a little bit different. You can stretch out second gear. I've heard testers say this, and that is the case. One of the biggest things for me is the electronics on this bike and the range. You know, when you do press buttons, it does have an effect on the characteristics of the ride in a good way. Traction control works, and you can feel that on the blue groove. But just for me, you know, the bike when riding is very linear, and it's very rider friendly. It's not like a normal 450 in terms of you get on it and you start throwing a few gears at it, you stretch it out, it rides. That's not to say that the bike's slow, because it's far from slow, and it does revs, you know, just under 12,000 RPM, and I believe that it can go higher than that as well. We was told this morning. Not that I'd want it to go any higher. It does have a unique riding feel to it when you ride it. You know, at quarter throttle it has a separate hit. In terms of controls, brilliant. Suspension's going to be a little bit soft for me. I should stop saying but it was more just down to the electrics. You know, what I was feeling there was really positive. So, and the reason it's positive is because it gives you a lot of room for scope. So I could imagine that the range of adjustment is going to be incredible for you to personalise this bike for yourself. The Going back to the way that the bike rides and the rev range, the gears. So second gear stretches out. Third gear, yes, you can hook third gear. It will lug, but you do get a little bit of a delay. There's something which is there which needs to be cleaned up. Maybe with these bikes, I don't know if there were, whether the calibration was a little bit out being at Golden Barn, but there was definitely something there in terms of a little splutter or a delay. I'm pretty certain that could be smoothed out or cleaned out within the adjustability, from the app. It's just another bike that's hit the market at a reasonable price. It's 11,500, I believe. It's an extra £2,000 if you want the Akrapovic exhaust and some of the goodies that go along with that. But for me, I can see that this bike will be a good seller, and I can see a lot of people investing into it and appreciating the work of art that it is. If I can just touch on the ground surface, so I feel like it would be better if there was a little bit more load on the bike, because I would be able to rev the bike a little bit harder, use good advantage of that hit that it has just after quarter throttle, and really kind of play with that. If the ground was a little bit, it was a little bit more softer and there was more ruts, like the typical tracks that we ride today, which are ripped, watered, and and prepped to an inch of their life. So for me, good bike, good day, good to be back at Golden Barn riding around on this surface. Thank you to Ryan and Barry for having me here. Thank you for the pizza, that was lovely. And if you do want to get on this bike, on this track, you need to go to the Ducati MX experience, get yourself booked in. I think for the full day, that's clothing, fuel, bike, everything, is £220. Money well spent as far as I'm concerned. So good day.